Hello, you're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. Because it's more fun to believe.
There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another experience of Me and Paranormal You. This is your buddy, Ryan Singer. How is that volume for you there, Greg, in the headphones?
Doing good.
My buddy, Greg Feinman, live. Well, not live. Well, we are live, at least we think.
Yes, we're as live as we're going to get.
We're live. We're going to get from beautiful Colorado. It is slightly warmer than it was when I was here last time in January.
Just ever so slightly, too.
Ever so slightly. I mean, it is incredibly beautiful and yet cold.
Yeah. It's when we were on our way back from the hotel, it was 44 degrees.
Oh, okay.
So,
it felt colder to me for some reason.
Yeah, it feels that way to all of us.
Maybe because of the elevation.
It's when it clears up, it gets cold.
I mean, it is absolutely astounding and breathtaking, the landscape.
Yeah, that we're lucky about.
Yeah, for sure. So it's been about 10 months or so, a little over 10 months, maybe 11 months since I was last here. We've been through a bunch of different things technically, as I think people who listen to this program know that in January of this year, Dan Lindholm, Ed Brown, and myself met here at Greg's place with Greg and Mama Sue and the puppy crew. And we filmed for about 5 or 6 days and nights, as we are working on putting together the visual story that has unfolded here on the podcast as well through multiple episodes. I suggest for those who are just new to the story to go back and listen to the first and then the second and so on to kind of get the timeline in order. But we've had there was a lot of strange technical difficulties that we experienced while we were here. And then also, once we got back, Ed had sent me the hard drives because I'm editing the documentary together. And we could not get into one of the hard drives. It just wouldn't.
Really?
And this is going to be a doozy, which I haven't had the heart to tell Ed yet. But, so maybe he'll hear it here for the first time. Him and Dan. So, I've got 2 hard drives mailed to me from Ed, who was able to get into them when he first had them sent from you. After the computer cowboy or whoever helped you hack into the NSA level encryption that somehow was put on your computer that we still don't understand.
Yeah.
So the computer cowboy, which I think is the best name, gets in, you transfer it, mail it to Ed, Ed mails it to me. Because this was at the time where I was like, I just need to see what's on these hard drives to see if I'm even going to have, half the time it takes to edit this together, right? To see if I can sign on for that part of it. I can't get into one of the hard drives. And so I go all around. I go to a bunch of different places, and they're like, it'll cost $500 to do this, blah, blah, blah. So then I finally go to this one place, and I'm like, okay, well, how can you get into this? And they're like, oh, yeah, you can't get into it. I was like, I just need you to get into it so I can copy it as fast as possible onto another drive. That's all I'm trying to do. And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, it's a paranormal documentary. So they're like, oh, they're intrigued, right? So the guy takes it. He goes into the back room. Literally 45 seconds later, he comes out. He's like, it was just a bad cord. And I go, what? And I'm like, I don't believe it at this point because so many people have told me it doesn't work up till now, right? Multiple people. And so he goes, yeah, it was just a bad cord. I just swapped out the cord and it works fine. And I was like, so you're telling me you can see what's on this hard drive? He goes, yeah. I go, you're not lying to me?
This is not.
And he goes, no, I can see it. And I go, how many gigs is it? Can you show me this, tell me the size? So he goes back, peeks. He's like, oh yeah, this is what it is. So I run back to Best Buy, who wanted like $500, $600 to ship it off somewhere to have it done and blah, blah, blah. I come back with 2 different hard drives. And I go, copy it onto both of these, please. And they're like the SanDisk, the ones that, you have one of them right now, actually, in front of you because I mailed it out to you. And so
yes,
he said, like, okay, it's going to take a little while because there's a lot of stuff on here. So I come back the next day. I don't believe it's happened until I'm seeing it on my computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I look, sure enough, all the footage comes up.
Oh.
But here's the doozy. Here's the doozy, which I haven't had the heart to tell Ed and Dan yet. All of the footage on the small drive that we recovered was already on the larger drive.
Oh.
So now it is doubled.
Oh, that's classic.
So all of that trouble, I signed up for like a 12-month care plan for this like technology company when I got the drives copied, because then I could cancel it within a month and it would be free. So I got the service done for free. Obviously, the drives were not free, and I needed to buy at least 1 or 2 drives anyway for the editing process because I needed them to be super fast. Like those are like high-speed, solid-state drives. So like there's no fan in them. So it's much easier to edit from, right? And so, but then all of that for the fact that it was already on.
That's like trying to kick in a door without checking to see if it's unlocked first.
100%. We just had no idea. I mean, I obviously had no idea it was already on there because I couldn't see it, right? And that was the whole problem. To this day, we don't know if that means that there was other stuff on that drive that has disappeared, right? Which may in fact have. But now you have a copy of it. I don't know if you've been able to get into it or not.
Okay, so I'll be honest with you. I'm afraid.
Oh, okay, yeah, and I am too. And I don't think we should probably even try until we're in a position where we need to.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've set. This has been sitting here just like this, next to the computer. I plugged it in one time. It came up, showing that it had everything, and I pulled it off. I didn't even want to double click on anything to see if I can get into something. I was good with it, because we've had this bad luck before. And things that are so unexplainable, you can't even fathom. And I didn't want another one of those stories. I just wanted to kind of keep it nice and safe, and it's here. And if we need to,
we need it.
Yeah.
And we've got I myself have multiple copies of all of the footage. One that I added off of, and one that's just a backup.
Oh, good.
So we should be, knock on wood, pretty much covered in that regard. But I know the guys to go to in case we're not, because those guys they took care of it in 24 hours. So that's where we stand now. And so I'm back out here doing a show tomorrow night with the Goofball Run tour here in Trinidad, and then we're going to make our way to Manitou Springs for a show. But so we're gonna record this podcast for some updates for some people, check in with you, see what you've been up to, and then we're going to film some more stuff later. Maybe we'll see about what we're going to do tomorrow, potentially during the day. But yeah, the scene, we're currently sitting in the room where we had a really interesting experience at the house, which was unexpected, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
With all of us, and specifically Mama Sue, which we caught on camera. And I'll be excited to show people that when the documentary releases. I believe we're naming it Fitz, right? Friends in the Sky.
Yeah.
Maybe Fitz, subtitle, The Investigation of Mutilation Ranch, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which was originally designed or conceived as a series, we're making it into like just a feature-length documentary. So, and it's looking. I mean, the story is very compelling for those. And again, I implore those who are not familiar with the story to go back and to the very first interview that Greg and I did, because there's too much to cover to rehash here.
Yeah.
Long story short, I'm going to give them the most condensed version I can, and then we're going to pick up with what you've been doing lately. This is the most condensed version I can. Greg starts investigating a place he has called Mutilation Ranch for unusual bovine deaths. It turns out that there are... then he brings in Mama Sue, the psychic. Mama Sue and Greg together discover, through communication with Fitz, Friends in the Sky, the aliens, that there are also portals on the property. There is a reason behind the cattle abductions and mutilations, and now communication with Oma. Some people might know them as Sasquatch, who have been relocated to this planet through the help of Fitz from a dying planet. A missing person case, a cold case, the spirit of a woman also in contact on this property with Mama Sue initially, that has become an integral part of the investigation as well. So now you have a missing person, you have a spirit, you have a ghost investigation, you have cryptids with Oma, and you have Fitz, the alien UFO cattle mutilation abduction.
This is kind of like a paranormal salad.
Yeah.
You know? You know, and it just turned out that way.
It just turned out that way because it all started out from your previous experience on the police force of going out on cattle mutilation call when the sheriff at the time took it very seriously because you were thinking about making a joke, and then you realized very quickly this was not something that anyone took as a joke out here. Tom, the rancher out of Mutilation Ranch, I think it's 16 mutilations over the many years. It's a family ranch.
Yeah, he don't think it's a joke.
Yeah, he don't think it's a joke. And there have been other people who are very interested and involved in paranormal research and investigations that have been out on the property. The property itself has been on multiple television programs regarding paranormal activity, etc. So that is as condensed as you can possibly even.
Yeah, and they just did a documentary. I think it was called Beyond the Skinwalker Ranch, about out there.
Oh, they did an episode out there?
Yeah, they did
I saw the episode with Christopher Bledsoe, which was amazing. I didn't know that they came out to Tom's Ranch.
Yeah, well, they came out and did from what I understand, it's called Beyond the Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, it's a companion series that they're doing with the main series.
Yeah.
That it has like a CIA agent and a scientist of some kind, I think, are the two main investigators, or former CIA or whatever, I think. If I'm not mistaken, those are the two main investigators on that show. Which I've only seen one episode so far, and it was very good. I mean, I was very interested in the subject of that episode, which was Chris Bledsoe and the story of his life and family. But that's interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out. So if people are interested in understanding, the ranch that Greg has been investigating for these past few years now, with UOR investigations, that'll be coming out probably sometime in the near future, that episode of Beyond Skinwalker.
Yeah.
I mean, Chuck Zukowski's been out here. I don't think I'm talking out of school when I name some people that have been out there.
No.
Travis Taylor from Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch has been out there, not for the television program, but for independent research. This is a real deal paranormal location.
Yeah, this is the cat's meow.
And you've been boots on the ground at this place for going on, 3 years now?
Yeah.
And what's compelling, I think, to the listener is the amount of activity, the variety, of the ingredients that are in this paranormal salad. But what is troubling to those involved, myself included, are the personal consequences that have been occurring to those involved in the investigation. Now, I can't say that I am subject to this. I think that would be overstating my involvement, but because I haven't had anything that I can directly, correlate to, like, oh my God, ever since I've been out there, then all this awful stuff started happening, right? So, but I know for you and for Mama Sue, it's been, it's more than just a fun time going to, grab some flashlights and look for ghosts, right?
Definitely. There's consequences to everything we've done. What I've been up to. I was told back in 2021 to, don't, stop coming out to the ranch. You need to really study the Word of God. Is what you need to do. That's what's important. You're going to need to know it. And, so kind of that's what I've been up to. Trying to figure some things out.
Well, there's been some real, personal health issues that you've been tending to. You said before we started recording, you spoke about I needed to study, but I also needed to heal. I also needed to. I had to be in. You've been in recovery for a while now.
Yeah, I July 3rd of this year, and I had a total knee replacement on my left knee, and then September 25th I had a right knee replacement, total knee replacement, and so it took me a while to recover from all that. And I mean, it was to the point where I couldn't even hardly walk. I was in a wheelchair most of the time, but now I'm, it's like I never had the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that already in the short time that I've been here, how much easier you're getting around.
Oh yeah, it's a game changer, and I couldn't do anything. I mean, I couldn't continue the investigation. I mean, both me and Sue have taken a real hit, her especially. Mine has been corrected, but Mama Sue's, she's still dealing with it.
And that's let's make no bones about it. It is no pun intended, I guess. Going out on the ranch, specifically to go see the bones of the last cattle that was, the victim or whatever you want, or the subject of this mutilation. It's terrain. It is like mountain, plain, farm terrain. I mean, it's not some neat and tidy little field that gets mowed every Wednesday by the neighborhood kid. We're talking hundreds of acres. We're talking rough Colorado terrain.
Yeah, 1,400 acres. And they had, matter of fact, rough enough to where when I first started the investigation, he had released the cows into a part of the ranch that I couldn't even get to. I mean, by vehicle, just because of the crevices and everything, that the drop-offs and things you don't see out there. It's just, it's really, you can't really get around in the vehicle out there.
Yeah, you need some real cowboys to go get them, probably.
Yeah. Well, they, I don't know how he ends up calling them in. A lot of times it's food kind of thing, and they follow.
Yeah. It's funny to see that happen. My aunt and mom have a very small-time, like grass-fed cattle operation on the family farm in Ohio, and when it's grub time, they come.
Yeah.
It is a flock of large cows and they're not taking their time either.
Yeah.
They're motivated to get that grub, that's for sure.
Yeah, they come running, man. Cows can move out. They can.
Let's pause real quick. We're going to take a brief intermission here for some commercials. And as a reminder, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. You can get all of these interviews commercial free for $3 a month. It helps me cover the costs of, the hosting, the websites, all that good stuff. You keep the podcast lights on. So go over to Patreon. Thank you to all the patrons over there, by the way. And $3 a month, it gets you commercial free. And there's other tiers. You can go more. You can go more than that if you really want to. But we'll be right back with Greg Feinman as we catch up on the investigation at Mutilation Ranch. And we're back. Okay, Greg. So we're talking about the difficult terrain. We're talking about the personal toll it's taken on you and Mama Sue. And now that you're feeling better, I'm guessing maybe once it warms up a little bit, maybe next year, you might start really expanding, getting back out into the literal field potentially.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Well, my plan is to gear up for the actual investigation into the autopsy of one of the cows that are the next cows that are done. But I there's a lot that needs to be done before I can do that. I have to have a way to store evidence, and there's got to be a way to show a chain of custody that the evidence is, who's been in contact with that evidence and for how long, and until it's tested. And all those kind of things need to fall into place. And a lot of it's about money, trying to, none of it's cheap. Trying to get this going, but that's my plans.
Now, to be clear, you're talking about the next potential mutilation.
Next potential,
Because it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I asked Mama Sue what her opinion was on if they were going to stop, like once, because there were 16 traffic accident related deaths and 15 cattle mutilations at the time that I started the investigation. Then they had another cattle mutilation, which made it even. 16 cattle mutilations and 16 traffic accidents, and we were wondering, well, now that they're equal, maybe that's it. That's all there is. And Sue says, no, I don't think so. I think they're gonna, it's gonna continue until they figured out what they want to figure out, or what happens. What they said is going to happens by that time, and time's ticking. Time's ticking. We don't have very much longer. By the time frame, we don't even have a year.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it's interesting, some of these time frames. I think obviously people love hearing very specific pinned down time frames when it comes to like big things, right?
They've explained why they can't pin it down.
Yeah.
It's impossible to pin it down because they don't know the future. No one does. They said they can time travel and look into the past, but they can only look into the past. They can't change it or anything any more than you can change a record that you buy at a store and listen to it.
Yeah, it's what's interesting too, of the many facets of this investigation, and how winding of a road it's truly been. It's pretty wild to think about. I can go back in my mind's eye, and I can see the day that I was talking with Dan Lindholm on the phone after his first trip out here during the investigation, right? And he's just telling me all this stuff, and I'm just like, wow, And if I'm not mistaken, it was probably sometime fall of 2020, because I remember being in a certain place with my partner at the time, and there was just every TV station just had like election coverage on, right? So it was like that time of year. That's why I feel like it might be around that time. I can't, or maybe it was his second trip out here. I can't remember. But since that time, so much has changed. So many other new pieces of information and evidence have come in. You've been reaching out to different authorities, trying to, because this is like a, at least a 3-pronged investigation at this point, right?
Yeah, at least.
Like, if we had to really classify the different, the main areas of focus of this investigation, what would you call those? Or what would those areas be for you?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a big why. All right. Monica, I shouldn't have said that, but is a big why. Why we're in contact with her in the first place. What she has to do with this whole thing. We don't know. We're thinking that eventually, there's a good possibility a body's going to be found out there. And when it does, then things might be changing. But we don't know why we're in contact with her. We just don't. And what this has to do with the end is as we know it. Why we came in contact with her. I just don't know. Nothing happens on that ranch by accident. The people that put her out there, they were drawn out there. They were drawn out there, and
it's a huge. And just in case someone doesn't in their imagination, or being able to really visualize 1,400 acres, it is a lot of land.
It's a lot, and the time frame of when all this happened, it's like it'd be impossible. Even with cadaver dogs, you can't guarantee that you're going to find anything, because 1,400 acres, you're not going to be able to scour 1,400 acres, canvas with a couple dogs. I mean, they can only do so much. So even if we were able to get cadaver dogs out there, which I like to do just to try, we don't know. We don't know why. We know we got to communicate with Omaha as a gift. That's what Fitz gave us as a gift, to let us communicate with them. And Omaha's there for a specific reason.
So this is the second part.
Yeah, this is the second part.
The communication with Omaha.
Yeah. And actually, the first part, I would say we first started communicating with we got little pieces of communication from Fitz. And then we, just little pieces, nothing big, but then we got Monica. I keep saying the word, I'm not supposed to say it, but we got her, and then when we were dealing with her, we come in contact with Omaha. Actually, Omaha comes in contact with us. They reach out to us. We weren't looking for them.
Yeah, to be clear to the listener, no part of this investigation was ever, there was never, a syllabus or an overview written down being like, and then we'll try to find Omaha.
Yeah, there was none of that. This is just what we're going to get, with Mama Sue's abilities and what we're going to get out there when we go out there. It started with Fitz. It started out slow, real slow. Like, we were saying, well, we just want to help you. And they said, we don't need your help. Kind of like that, and we're like, I said, well, everyone needs a friend. I said, I'm just trying to be your friend and trying to, see if we can come to some sort of an understanding or agreement or something we can do to help. And Mama Sue says, Fitz is telling me that you amuse them.
Which is something that, you don't know how to first take that, I don't think, right? You're like, wait, so I come out, I'm just like, I'm a clown? Like Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
What, you think I'm a clown?
I always think of that episode. I always think of Goodfellas when I think of being told that I amuse them. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And they said, well, most people are afraid of us. And you're coming out here and knocking on the front door saying, hello, and why are you not afraid? I mean, aren't you afraid we could do this or that? And I said, I don't feel that I need to be afraid unless you're wanting me to be afraid, but I don't know why I don't fear. But
well, I think it has a lot to do with the curious nature and the investigator in you, that even if you do have fear at times, which you're just a person, that takes a back seat to your desire to find out answers, right? Or to figure it out.
Don't think that we haven't, that out there at the ranch at 3:00 in the morning that you don't get an uneasy feeling every once in a while, because you do. You just got to have control of that.
It's like the opposite of that Eagles song.
Yeah.
Peaceful, easy feeling.
Yeah.
It's like peaceful, easy feeling.
And it isn't. It isn't.
Yeah, I remember being out there, was it 1:30 or whenever we were out there that one night, 12 o'clock, 12:30. It was just so bitter cold because it was January. And then I heard that noise, and it turns out we think it was Dan, right? Like yawning or doing like a loud, like, Aah! So because Ed and I had separated from everybody. And it sounded like it came from across the river bed area. And I immediately was like, because that was maybe the first time I'd been in a very high activity location out in the woods in a place I'd never been before, like in the middle of the night.
It was highly active that night.
Yeah. And like I hadn't been in a situation like that in years since I had this, crazy experience in Florida. And so then I immediately was like, oh, I became very uneasy, even though we think it was a false alarm.
Well, my SLS camera got messed up out there.
Wait, I didn't know this.
Yeah. Remember when it went down?
And I've got that footage, right?
Yeah. Remember when the SLS went down? And we just thought the battery went out?
And we thought it was weird because it happened very, very fast.
No, I had to unscrew the bottom to look at the insides to see if there was a problem. And there was a wire pulled.
Where there was a wire pulled?
Pulled. That was just free. From...
Because to be clear for everyone listening, we went out there and Greg brought a ton of his equipment. And so we had all this equipment set up. And we're going to try, to do our best, even though I think it was like 2 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And it was single digits for sure. And we're like, okay, we're just going to do our best. And even though we're going to see how long we can make it, maybe an hour if we're lucky. The SLS was working. And then I think the SLS was working beforehand, right, here at the house.
It was. Yeah, it was working fine. And, I hold that, I treat that SLS camera like with kit gloves. I just, there's no hard movements with it. You don't slam it on anything.
All the other pieces of equipment are like, hey, you're spoiling the SLS.
Yeah,
Dad.
And so, yeah, so it was up on a tripod. No one was touching it. We were away from it. And then it just went down, and I thought it was just the battery that died. So when we get home, I plug it in, let it charge up. When I went to test it out, check everything, check systems and everything, it wouldn't even turn on. And I was like, so I unplugged it, or I unscrewed the bottom and saw that there was a wire that had been pulled from a soldering piece, where it was soldered. And so I haven't been able to solder that. I've been able to get that piece back and touch it and make contact with it, but I'm not getting the SLS to initialize. For whatever reason, it's not initializing. And I don't know.
So it got fried that night.
That's
which to those listening, you're like, this is a theme in the paranormal world, and there might be some skeptical people listening as well who are like, well, sometimes things just don't work anymore. Yeah, we get it, but why is it always in the moment of something happening that it decides to stop working?
Yeah. The last mutilation that I went on, the last UBD that I went on, was on another ranch, and while I was out there, one of my body cameras just fried. And that's when we asked them, when we got in contact with them, or with Fitz in regards of them, and they said that, yeah, they did that, and they're going to do more. They're going to destroy your Jeep so you can't use it no more. And they're going to destroy your computer so you can't use them anymore. And I'd be darned if it didn't all happen.
Because a horse in the night runs into the road.
Just there.
From a self-storage parking lot.
Yeah.
Right in front of your Jeep.
Yeah. Not just one, several. I hit one. It could have been worse. It could have been worse.
So there's the Jeep part. And then cut to the computer and the computer cowboy, which we kind of alluded to.
And the computers happened a lot sooner than the Jeep happened.
Yeah.
The computers happened within the next couple of weeks. Both of my computers were down dead, and I couldn't even get on them. It was like I had no computers.
It's like the universe, and it's like whoever also saying, how badly do you want to get this out there?
Well,
or how badly how easily will you give up this search for information and answers, right?
Okay, think about this. They statically charged me to be able to do what I did, to be able to knock down these computers. They did the same thing to you when you were here. Because
I just tested that, by the way. I went into the kitchen. It's not the very first thing I did. And I have shoes on. It's not like I'm walking around in socks. And it's not a carpet floor anyway. It's all hardwood floor. And I did get a tiny, tiny spark. I'm going to do it again because I've been here for a little while now. I got to be here for a minute, I feel like, right? If someone had mentioned like a loose wire in like the plumbing or something at some point that might be charging the pipes. But the interesting part was no one else, or like Ed or Dan, like I was the only, you could see the spark when I touched the sink.
It actually hurts. When it happens. Versus a regular static charge. This is a little more of a charge than
That reminds me, I
normal.
got to be careful when I'm
It's
touching
more than
myself.
just a balloon, a balloon on your
Rubbing on
hair,
your hair,
kind
yeah.
of thing. It's more than that. And it does. When you touch, it hurts. You're like, ah.
Don't touch the mixer right
Yeah,
here, Greg.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want you.
yeah, exactly.
Don't touch my mixer.
Yeah.
Don't fry my equipment right now.
But it's like that. And here's the funny part. You're the only one that had that, but you're the only one messing with my computer too that day. So what they were trying to have you do was to shut down my computer, and that same thing would have happened. It would have snapped, and it would have shut down the computer, and it would have been it. But you never did that. I was the one that shut it down. And I think if you would have touched it, I think it would have fried it, because I think they somehow they were able to charge you up.
Yeah, I was definitely I was supercharged.
Yeah, and it was only because you were the only one working with the computers. And that's what I think. That's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean it's wild. So just to recap here, the three major prongs of this investigation are the information from Fitz, the missing person, and the contact with Omaha.
Well, yeah, and there a lot of things have been. I've been getting, I would say the word is a spiritual attack that has been happening to me over the last while. I was recently baptized, and 3 days after my baptism, Portia died.
And by the way, if you didn't know this dog, you'll meet Portia when you see the documentary next year or in 2024. But this little teacup chihuahua, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the queen of the house, the ruler of
the boss,
the matriarch of this household, for sure, the boss, 100%.
Yeah, and I was gone for a day and a half, and I had someone watching, and it's just something. It's hard to get into, but something happened, and on the way home, I was on my way home from the hospital when I get a call from the person that was watching her and said that she passed away. I was like 45 minutes away from home, so it just made that drive miserable. And, it's hard to say. I mean, dogs just don't up and die. They don't just up and die. And, she was kind of fragile, but they don't just die in a day and a half, I have my own opinion. I think it was Satan's direct response to me getting baptized because of the time frame. And then right after that happens, I get contacted by my landlord and says my rent's going up $300 a month. All these bad things just coming in, trying to hit me, trying to keep me from doing what I'm doing. That's what it's doing,
Trying to make it very uneasy.
Very, very difficult.
And when we come back, we're going to touch more on that. And I don't know. I don't want this to be like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a warning story or something about getting into like deep paranormal investigations. But we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we get back. Just a reminder, this is the last commercial break you're going to do, unless you're a patron. You don't have to listen to any commercial breaks over at the Patreon page. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. We're going to be right back with Greg Feinman. We're going to talk about more on the investigation at Mutilation Ranch and everything else. And we're going to give, probably more shout outs to Portia Lynn, the pancake queen. I mean, I've been watching her eat a pancake that is larger than her entire body was a sight to see.
Oh,
the pancake.
Yeah, I won't forget when we came back with our McDonald's, and those dogs, when everyone was walking around in here, those dogs were like fish, kind of going around just
finding the weakest link.
Yeah,
who's going to give him
snap,
the food?
snap. Yeah, they were just like going around just getting all this food.
Getting
and
snacks.
I look over and Portia sitting on my lap, and her whole mouth was just all on over trying to finish this, double quarter pounder that's 3 times her size.
Yeah. Not even asking. You just kind of catch her. It's like, when you see a snake try to eat an animal that's larger than their body.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, so we're going to be right back. More on that with Greg Feinman when we get back. And we're back. So I want to talk about that a little bit about, and by that what I mean is the different level of involvement a person or an investigator or a researcher can have in a paranormal investigation. You know what? I'm just thinking of this for the first time, so it might not make any sense. You know how sometimes when you hear about people who have been in relationships for a long, or like you hear this a lot about owners and their dogs, people with their dogs, that if they're together long enough, they start to look like each other.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Okay, so you've heard that. I think everybody's heard that. And I'm wondering if there can be something said about that when it comes to a paranormal investigation on a specific location, right? Because I definitely think there are levels of investigations that investigators and researchers can get into. And the deeper the investigation, I think the bigger toll it can take on an individual researcher. Sometimes bad and sometimes good, right? But I think when it comes to Mutilation Ranch and you, I mean, this was the investigation that you've been dedicated for the most part, because there's been other things you've been doing over time.
But
this is dominated by far, right?
Dominated everything. Everything I talk about, you know.
Now, is there a part of you that's like, I need to maybe start doing some other just very like one night stand, very surface level investigations, like go to just a location for a night or something, just to try to like give yourself some space, or do you think that's not needed?
Right now, if I'm going to investigate something, it's going to be something that somebody's actually having a problem with. Is someone that they're having a problem, a paranormal problem that is in effect, that's affecting their daily life or their nightly life or whatever. We'll investigate that and try to get rid of whatever it is. But to go out there, I've already got the ranch that I'm dealing with, and if I'm going to be doing anything, it would be with that. You know, I just don't. I mean, I kind of would like. There's one place I'd like to go check out, but that's only with Mama Sue, and you know, she's just been so sick lately that I just don't know if it's going to be possible for that to ever happen again. I just don't know. You know.
Well, do you think that? Do you think under the current circumstances that you'll ever be able to get back out to the ranch with Mama Sue?
That's a good question. And I feel if it happens, it's because it was supposed to happen. And if it doesn't, it's because it's just not. I mean, we were told to stop going out there because we've already told you what's going on. You know, you need, you know, and we got, you know, we have you for later, but you need to study the Word of God. You're going to need to know it. And they did something to me when they told me or when they've taken me, they did something that made me be able to do the amount of study that I've been able to do in the period of time that I've been doing it. And I can't explain it, but I've gotten a lot closer relationship with God. And, you know, when you start messing around with the paranormal, a lot of times you're messing with demons. And that's the truth. You're messing with demons. And some people will say that spirits are demons that are impersonating a person. But I don't know. I wish I could have a firm belief on that, but we've got the spirit out at the ranch that was calling out to us. But we also, when we were cruising around one night, another spirit called out to Mama Sue that had been killed and buried and in a specific location. And what makes me think about that is that's now 2 people that have been killed and no one knows where they're at that are called out to Mama Sue. That I've been in contact since I've been with Mama Sue. That's happened. So maybe, just maybe, if you're killed, you know, you're murdered, maybe you get that chance of giving your message across if someone's there to hear it. You know, maybe. I don't know. I
Maybe
wish
if you're lucky enough, Mama Sue's passing by your area.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, and there is actually a clip from Mama Sue we want to throw in here, right?
Yeah.
Maybe now's a good time to do that. What do you think?
Okay, yeah.
When it comes to like the information she's getting, right? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, you can go back and you can listen to the episodes that Mama Sue has been a part of, and I mean, talk about it's just an absolute damn delight to spend any time with Mama Sue, and so any opportunity we've got to, to put Mama Sue on the show here, let's do that. Set this clip up for me a little bit.
Okay, so it was a stormy day where Mama Sue lives there in Pueblo, and one day she was told, and it was the same day that we got the lightning strike, that I got the lightning strike. She was told that we come with the storms. So one day it's really stormy, and what's she going to think about? Well, Fitz, obviously. So she felt they were close, and she called out to him, and they answered her. And what they told her all has to do with what they told me to start doing back in 2021.
Okay, let's listen to that clip here now. So this is Mama Sue, and this is you just on a call with her.
Yeah, we're just on the call talking.
Okay, and this is like right after it happened, probably, or soon after.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's cut to that right now.
I was asking Fitz because it was storming. I mean, so loud, here, and I was just like, Lord, not Lord. Fitz, are you here? Are you hearing the storms? Please talk to me, And it took a little bit, but it was at 5:24 this year at 5 o'clock p.m. Outside it is storming, and I asked them to speak to me. And their answer was, see the world? It is falling with each passing moment. Continue to tell people the door to redemption has already begun to close. Speak the truth, all you who know, and God will sustain you throughout this mission. The rewards will be beyond your comprehension. That cool?
Wow.
Okay, so that was Mama Sue, and so just to kind of recap, this is information that obviously, like you said right before we listened to the clip, was information that you'd gotten as well in 2021.
Yeah.
And when was this conversation with Mama Sue? Was it 2023 or 22?
23.
So it was this year.
Yeah.
We're still in the year 20. We're in December 2023 as we record this. It looks
was,
like.
No, I don't know. I don't know when it was.
Well, regardless, it's a couple years later. We'll just say anywhere from a year and a half to 2 years later.
It was June 2nd.
So June 2nd of 23. So this past summer. And when we were here in January, it's interesting because Mama Sue's a sweetheart. But if you're some kind of energy or entity or whatever, and you're trying to mess with Mama Sue, she's not going to just sit there and take it.
No.
It was,
no.
You really get to see, the powerful side of someone like Mama Sue in those situations, which we did on that particular night.
Well, she got scared like I've never seen her before. And, we've been up in the hills at 3 a.m. in graveyards and never seen her as scared as we saw her that day, in the house with a bunch of us around.
Yeah, everybody was here.
And she has been pushed and shoved around here. And so that's why she has that residual fear, where she got up and I told her, I know I'm not you. I said, but you can't give it that kind of power by running. You got to stand your ground. Now that's easy for me to say. I'm not the one that saw whatever she saw coming at her, and she wasn't expecting it. It's not something you're expecting.
It was totally out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, I can speak to the, stand your ground aspect, as someone who's, run away screaming for their life from things in the past. And eventually you go back and you have to face it. Or you just won't ever move past it. Right. Mm-hmm. And, which is something I've been doing, slowly but surely been doing myself. And it's something that Mama Sue obviously does as well. And, it's because, even afterward that same night, it turned from that initial moment of what just happened and the fear to like, now you've pissed Mama Sue off.
Well, yeah. And I was mad. I called out to it. Matter of fact, I asked them why they aren't doing this with me. How come you're not sending something like that to me to try to scare me? And that's when we got that EVP that picked up on the camera, Oma, if you remember correctly.
Oh my God, yeah.
It said Oma, like Oma's protecting me, and they're in a. Well, one of the things that I learned on the last time when we were out there that night is that Oma can manipulate our EMF meters. I didn't know that, but at the very end, they were the ones manipulating our EMF meters. It wasn't the spirit out there. It was so they're in a place where they can do that.
Yeah, that was a pretty. As cold as it was, the action at one the action was heating things up for sure. When because the EMF meters were going bonkers there for a minute.
The whole time.
Yeah, and it was just, which is not a normal occurrence when you're on a paranormal investigation, for meters just to be going bonkers left and right. That's just not something that happens.
And it was
so when they do go off, it's actually like exciting, right?
And it's all intelligent responses. That's the thing. It's not just going off. And just a couple of months back, a friend of mine came visited me from Northern California. He was on a big motorcycle ride, and I took him out to the ranch, and nothing, dead, nothing. I couldn't get the spirit, couldn't get demonic or to Oma, nothing. But that makes this even more real, because it's not just the environment causing those EMF meters to go off. That there's times that they're going off like crazy, and when they're not there, they're not. Plain and simple.
Yeah, and I think that's an important aspect of this. And
they're not a form of entertainment for us to go out there and just check out and say, look,
you're the entertainment, Greg. Not them.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like, remember your role here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's, because quite frankly, if it was, now listen, as someone who wished everyone believed in all this really amazing stuff about the true nature of our reality and the characters involved in it, I wish it was that easy every single time to just get a mind-blowing experience for someone, evidentially, that they can't deny, right? And there's people who can come close to like replicating, experiences for people. And I don't mean manufacturing or fabricating when I say replicating, but, you find the right place and the right location, and you can have amazing experiences with many different people over and over and over and over and over again. And that's just because it's there. But if it was so easy to do, obviously there wouldn't be this much debate about, the validity of paranormal phenomena in mainstream, right?
Well,
which we don't think. I think you and I are on the same side of things, where we believe that before long there's not going to be much debate about it. It's not going to always be that way. It's going to be actually, quite the opposite. So when it comes to your, level of involvement with the investigation here and, the wide wide array of phenomena that's happened here. And not to mention the new people that were brought into your life, you know, specifically Mama Sue in a major way. It begs the question, okay, so you said something about why earlier, and we've talked about the why, about the big why that goes along with this investigation previously on here. But when it comes to, you know, your specific involvement, do you think it was dumb luck or just all the events of your life that kind of lined up for this? Why Greg Feinman in this particular situation getting, for lack of a better term, sucked into this thing?
Well, dumb luck, no. Nothing happens by accident. I got to say that because I was taken, this is things that we learned over the course of this investigation. I've been taken since I was like 8 years old.
And we believe that there's a correlation with Dan as well, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
So if you've listened to the show, you know Dan Lindholm as well.
Yeah, and again, Mama Sue was taken at 6, you know, at a young age, and because we've had contact with them, subconsciously, that's why I think I'm not afraid of them.
Because there's a familiarity there, even if you didn't realize.
Yeah, that even though I don't know, Mama Sue is adamant that I've been on that ship, that Fitz has actually shaken my hands, and they don't do that, she said. They do not shake hands, and they even shook your hand. And that you've had conversations with them, like over coffee, in that context, you know, but I don't remember it. She remembers it, but I don't. And there's reasons why I don't. You know, I think they want me to go off of faith, not just what I know, because just because you know it, then you'll do it. No, they want me to do it on faith, which I'm good with. They've done enough for me to show me that they're there. The lightning strike was proof positive that they were there. That was no accident. That was no freak. You know, it just happened. Lightning strike happened right at the moment that I asked them to do it. No, that was an actual response from them. I went out one night and I was called out there. And I started talking to him and said, you know, if you've been showing yourselves to others, you're going to show yourselves to me. And then you see a light just appear in the sky. It's not a big one, but how big does it need to be? It's a light in the sky that I can't reproduce. And it's way out like a star. It looks like a star. And it came on and was there for a little bit and then went away. Right when I asked them to show themselves.
And at some point you just have to ask yourself, okay, I've asked for these things and they've shown up right on cue. Am I being a bastard by not believing?
Oh, and I'm
like, how many chances are you going to get before they're like, I mean,
I totally
we showed,
believe.
we asked, you asked, we showed. You're asking us again?
Yeah. And that's the way you got to look at it. Like, just because they did it for me doesn't mean I can take a friend out and say, okay, do a lightning strike, guys. You know, they're not going to do that. All right. They've been behind the scenes for a long, long, long time. They've been behind the scenes, you know, I think making things happen. And they're able to do it. They you know, we've all been wired for telepathic communication. And Fitz can do something to you that enhances it. See, telepathic communication was never meant to be a main form of communication. When God created Adam and Eve, we were supposed to be communing with God face to face. But when sin entered the world, when Eve sinned, God kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden so they cannot eat from the tree of life and live infinitely anymore. So when they got kicked out of the garden, that separated them from God. But God had to have a way to commune with us. So he wired us all for telepathic communication so he can give us messages. So he can talk to us. And, you know, when people say, I got a message from God, not all people that say they got a message from God are crazy. Some people that say they got a message from God got a message from God. And that's how it happens, telepathically. I mean, it's not magic. God doesn't work in magic. Satan does.
And magic is just another word that a lot of people will throw around for something they don't quite understand.
Yeah.
As well. Well, that's an interesting idea. I mean, it really is. We're at the end here.
And this is just stuff Fitz has told me.
And this is information that you've received telepathically.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And in case people were wondering, let me see. Let me just double check here. We got a couple more minutes. I don't think there was another clip you wanted to.
No.
No. Okay. So we've got that. Okay. So people are wondering. Let's circle back to what we talked about briefly earlier, with the what's next part, right? So we may or may not, depending on if it's going to be possible or not, try to get out there tomorrow. I think before the show for a little bit, but we'll see. Let's do this. Let's see if we're called out there.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we are, and I also wouldn't be surprised if we aren't, because there is a large Mama Sue component to this, right? Let's we've got just a couple minutes. Let's end on that, like the Mama Sue component to the investigation, because it's not like she just came into. Because what's really fascinating is when you first contacted her, she was just very vocal from the beginning, like, "No, I want to be a part of this whole thing," and. So it definitely feels like she's a necessary component for the forward motion of this, right?
Well, not just that, but she's like a security blanket to the spirit that's out there. All right, because what happened to that spirit in real life? She's afraid of men. And, when just men go out there, you ain't going to get nothing. We tried that and got nothing. So Mama Sue's got to be out there. And not only that, I don't like going out there without her, because we could have our EMF meters going off and we can think all we want who it is, but we don't really know unless we got Mama Sue there. She is the reason why I don't have just a bunch of dead cows on a ranch.
She's the reason for the season.
Yeah, she is the reason for all this. I mean, I'm the voice of it. I explain everything, but if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be explaining none of this. I'll be talking about what a dead cow looks like, all cut up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, to everybody listening, wondering, next steps, like in a practical way, we'll just have to wait and we'll wait and see. I know in the meantime, what we're really focused on. And I know what I'm really focused on is getting this documentary, cut together, trying to whittle down the, between you, Dan, and Mama Sue, just the sit-down interviews. I mean, we're trying to make this thing, an hour and a half, 2 hours at the most, probably. There's about, I don't know, 9.5, 10 hours.
Yeah.
So it's, of just like telling the story, because the story is so complex and there's so many unique avenues. And you also want to shed the light on the people who are involved in telling the story, because you have to, because we're going to be, total strangers are going to be seeing this. So these total strangers, rightly or wrongly, they're going to need a reason to want to believe the story, right? And with that comes, genuine sharing of, personal details of people's lives. So that's some of the stuff we're going to film later tonight, because we were just so hell-bent and intent on getting the story last time we were here that I think we left a little bit uncovered the Greg Feinman story, right? From leading up to this. Although we got your work history and all that.
Yeah.
But I think people want, you're a dad, and there's so much more than just a paranormal investigator that you are. You know what I mean? A father, you've been a husband, you've been a partner, you know what I mean? There's a lot more going on here.
Yeah. Well,
you've been a son, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, things that happen to you in your life make you the person you are today, and I've had an interesting life, not the most interesting, but I've had an interesting life. I've had several different careers. I was a paramedic. I was a firefighter for 10, 12 years in Northern California. I was a cop for almost 15 years. I was a deputy coroner, and I think that was the type of person that Fitz was looking for whatever they're going to use me for, is to have those abilities. I don't know, but I think that's what they were looking for.
Kind of like there's a specificity in the skill sets that you've acquired over a lifetime of experiences that have lended themselves to lay out a very comprehensive and an articulate accumulation of evidence.
Yeah.
When it comes to the report taking, the diligence, and always filming. I mean, were we even filming when you picked me up today? A little bit on the car camera?
Oh yeah, on the camera.
But that's also for accidents and things like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we would have not ran into something, but we've had enough of that. I think you have had enough of that, like literal running into things.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if something strange happens tonight when we're hanging out.
No.
It wouldn't shock me at all. But you're always at the ready for the capturing of such things, which I think is great. I'm like, I thinks it's great. Well, Greg, this has been a delight. We're already over an hour now as we hear the outro music coming on. Just as a reminder, people can watch clips of certain pieces of evidence that you've compiled over the years at the YouTube page, right?
Yeah. Yeah, UOR Investigations.
So that's UOR Investigations. Tell people what the UOR is.
Unusual Occurrence Report.
So, which in my mind is such a beautiful summation of the way you handle paranormal investigation. It's like people are like, wait, what? Unusual Occurrence Report? Yeah, that's exactly what it stands for. And then, UBD was referenced earlier. And if someone is new to Greg's story and what's happening out here at Mutilation Ranch, that stands for unusual bovine death, as opposed to cattle mutilation. But so that's just a little housekeeping there for you. So updates on this are coming soon, and if you listen to the program, I'm always referencing the editing process and what's happening on the back end of that documentary, which will be coming out to you to watch somewhere, somehow in 2024. Those details will be forthcoming, obviously. And who knows? Something so wild or big could happen in the meantime. Yeah, we don't even realize it. It's going to be a big part of the doc. I mean, that's the beauty of documentaries. They take so long to edit together that things can also unfold otherwise.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to happen? Well, Greg, thanks for doing this, buddy.
This is always unfolding.
Always unfolding
until it's completely over.
Yeah. And that actually makes me, I guess I'm getting hungry again, because when you say unfolding, I'm thinking about pieces of pizza being folded.
Yeah.
And then eating a folded piece of pizza.
That does sound like something good.
Sexy pizza here is pretty good, right? I mean, that's what we had last time, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah, Sexy Pizza if you're in Colorado. Okay, so as a reminder, you can go to ryansingercomedy.com or you can go to meandparanormalu.com. I think I still have that domain name. It just points to my main website. But and you can go back, and I will try to link all of the previous episodes in chronological order for those new to the story. And you can go back and listen to the way this whole thing has unfolded from the very beginning, if that's something you want to do. And hey, and if you got like an 8-hour car drive, that would actually be a great idea. So, so thanks for listening. We've got a few more shows on the Goofball Run tour. So thegoofballrun.com. For tickets, Wiley's, Dayton, Ohio, December 22nd, 23rd. And more info coming soon about my return to Florida. Ooh, and another trip I'll be making. And hopefully early 2024. But more on that later. Love you. Hope you love yourself. And if I don't see you at a live show, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane. Oh, Greg, thanks again, buddy.
Hey, always love being here.